My parents wanted me to breed an army of white babies. My parents told me on my 18th birthday that it was my duty to get pregnant immediately because our family was genetically superior and minorities were trying to outnumber us. They'd always been weird about genetics and bloodlines, but I'd thought they were just garden variety racists. I'd never really noticed that they kept detailed ancestry charts going back centuries, or that Dad would measure our facial features monthly and record them in notebooks, saying we had optimal proportions, while Mom collected our baby teeth and hair samples in labeled jars for what she called the archive. The birthday dinner where they revealed their plan was supposed to be a celebration. Instead, Mom pulled out a binder full of profiles. "These are your approved genetic matches," she said, showing me photos of young men with their height, weight, IQ scores, and family medical histories listed like they were breeding dogs. "We've already contacted their families. They're expecting to meet you this week." I laughed, thinking it was a sick joke, but Dad's face was completely serious. "Your sister Ashley understood her responsibility," he said. I stared at Ashley across the table. She was only 20, hugely pregnant with her second kid, and already looked dead behind the eyes. I'd had no idea her pregnancies weren't her idea. Now I understood she'd been sold like livestock. They explained their timeline with corporate efficiency. Dating for 2 months maximum, marriage by month 3, pregnant by month 6. They'd already put down deposits at fertility clinics in case I needed assistance. "The bloodline must continue through you," Mom said. "Our genetics are too valuable to waste. You should see how fast those half-breeds spit out babies. We have no time to lose." I tried to leave that night but discovered they'd changed the locks to only open from the outside. My phone had been replaced with one that could only call pre-approved numbers. My laptop was gone, my car keys missing. Ashley helped me understand the rules in whispers while washing dishes. Try to run, and they'd activate the tracking chip they'd had implanted during what I thought was appendix surgery. Refuse to comply and end up locked in the basement breeding suite they'd built for difficult daughters. The first meeting was with a man named Daniel, whose parents had driven 3 hours to present their son like a prize bull. Both families discussed our genetic compatibility while we sat in silence. His mother examined my teeth and hair while my mom showed off my academic awards as proof of intelligence. Daniel looked as trapped as I felt. After he left, I begged my parents to reconsider. I was 18, wanted to go to college, had dreams that didn't involve being a breeding machine. Mom slapped me hard across the face. "Your dreams don't matter," she said. "You were born for this purpose." Dad showed me ultrasound photos of Ashley's baby, explaining how their measurements already showed superior development. "This is your legacy," he said, not some meaningless degree. They scheduled 3 meetings a week with different approved matches. Each family had their own genetic obsessions. One wanted tall children and made me stand against a wall for measurements. Another brought DNA tests to verify our ancestry claims. I wanted to vomit but had to smile and nod or face the basement. Ashley gave birth at home because our parents didn't trust hospitals to handle genetically superior babies properly. I heard her screaming from my locked room while Mom coached her through delivery. They made me watch them measure and document every aspect of the newborn, declaring him genetically perfect, just like her first. Ashley held her baby with empty eyes while our parents discussed which genetic match would give her the best third child. After 6 months of meetings, they chose Ethan for me. His family paid my parents a genetic dowry of $50,000. The wedding was scheduled for next month at our house with only approved bloodlines invited. Mom had already bought my dress and booked fertility specialists. They'd timed everything so I'd be ovulating on my wedding night. The contract specified 5 children minimum, with financial penalties if I failed to deliver. A week before the wedding, Ethan broke protocol and whispered to me during a supervised visit. "My sister killed herself rather than go through with this," he said quickly. "I found her journals. There's a whole network of us trapped in these breeding programs. Some families have been doing this for generations." He slipped me a phone number written on tissue paper. "Call them if you get a chance. They help people like us escape." That night, I heard Ashley singing to her babies through the wall. The same lullaby over and over like her mind was stuck on repeat. She'd been valedictorian, had dreams of being a doctor. Now she was nothing. But before I could call the number, Mom found the paper. She dragged me to the basement by my hair to the breeding suite. Soundproofed walls, locks on every door, medical equipment for home births. "You can come upstairs when you're ready to fulfill your purpose," Mom said, locking the door behind her. "Ashley lasted 2 weeks down here before she agreed to cooperate. Let's see if you're any tougher." The first night, I don't sleep at all. I sit with my back against the medical bed, jumping at every creak and groan the house makes above me. The room is maybe 12 by 15 feet with gray walls that look thick, probably soundproofed like Mom said. There's a camera in each corner with little red lights blinking, watching me constantly. The door has 3 separate locks I can hear from inside, all electronic with these heavy clicking sounds when they engage. I count everything I can see because it keeps my brain from spinning out. 1 medical bed with stirrups folded against the sides. 1 mini fridge humming in the corner. 1 bathroom door that leads to a tiny toilet and sink. 1 desk with notebooks and pens. 1 closet that's probably locked. The fluorescent lights buzz overhead and I can't figure out how to turn them off. Around midnight, I hear it through the wall. Ashley's voice singing that lullaby over and over. The same verse repeating like a broken record, and I press my hands over my ears, but I can still hear her. My hands won't stop shaking as I realize Mom wasn't lying about Ashley's 2 weeks down here, and this is what compliance costs. When morning comes, I force myself to stand up and start checking everything like I'm studying for a test. The medical equipment includes a blood pressure cuff, stethoscope, and a whole shelf of supplies for home births that make me want to throw up. The mini fridge is stocked with prenatal vitamins, protein shakes, and healthy snacks all labeled with dates. I find the first aid kit mounted on the wall and open it slowly, looking for anything useful. Inside, there's bandages, antiseptic, pain medication, and a sterile scalpel in a sealed package. I slip the scalpel into my sock and it presses cold against my ankle. It's the only weapon I have, even though I don't know what I'd actually do with it. The desk drawers are locked, but the notebooks on top are blank, probably meant for me to document my pregnancy like some kind of experiment. I check the closet and it's full of maternity clothes in my size, all hung up and waiting. I keep thinking about that binder Mom showed me on my birthday. All those men with their stats listed like cattle at an auction. The casual way she discussed my ovulation schedule like I'm livestock being bred for optimal offspring makes my stomach turn. I remember her pointing at the calendar and explaining which days would be best for conception, which positions were most effective, how many attempts we should plan for. She had it all mapped out with the same tone she uses for grocery lists. Dad nodding along and adding notes about genetic compatibility scores. The memory makes me so angry I have to grip the edge of the sink to stay standing, but I use that anger to stay focused instead of dissolving into panic. I can't afford to fall apart down here where no one can see me break. I get down on my hands and knees and press my face against the heating vent near the floor. The metal is cold against my cheek as I whisper Ashley's name over and over until my throat hurts. I call for her maybe 50 times, listening hard between each attempt for any response. She doesn't answer, but I swear I hear movement on the other side, like someone shifting position or maybe getting closer to their own vent. Just imagining she might hear me makes the isolation slightly less crushing. I want to tell her I'm sorry for not noticing sooner, for not understanding what they did to her, for being too late to help. But all I can do is whisper her name into the dark vent and hope she knows I'm here. Mom shows up mid-morning with a breakfast tray, and I hear all 3 locks clicking open before the door swings wide. She's got this bright, cheerful smile on her face that makes my skin crawl, like she's bringing me breakfast in bed instead of keeping me prisoner. She sets down eggs and toast and orange juice on the desk, then stands there with her hands folded waiting for me to acknowledge her. Her voice is sweet when she talks, explaining that I have 3 days to think seriously about my responsibility to the family. If I'm ready to cooperate by then, I can come upstairs for the wedding planning meeting with Ethan's family on Thursday. She says it like she's offering me a reward instead of another trap. She reminds me that Ashley made the right choice after her time down here, and now she has 2 beautiful babies who will carry on our superior bloodline. Then she leaves and I hear all 3 locks engage again, sealing me back inside. I briefly consider the scalpel in my sock and what I could do with it. I could hurt myself badly enough they'd have to take me to a hospital where I might be able to get help. Or I could try to use it as a weapon next time someone opens that door, though Mom and Dad would probably overpower me easily. But I'm not that person, and hurting myself won't actually free me. It'll just give them more control. Instead, I decide to play their game just long enough to find actual leverage, some way to turn their own system against them. I need to be smarter than them, more patient, more strategic. They think locking me down here will break me, but I'm going to use this time to figure out every weakness in their setup. I go back to the medical kit and search more carefully this time, taking inventory of everything that might be useful later. I find a small pen light that works and slip it into my pocket. There's gauze and medical tape I can use for God knows what, maybe padding if I need to break something quietly. I pocket some alcohol wipes and a small pair of scissors. Every tiny piece of agency feels like a victory, even though I'm still completely trapped. I organize everything in my mind like a checklist, noting where each item is stored, so I can grab it fast if I need to. The act of planning gives me something to focus on besides the fear. I spend the rest of the day and into the evening mapping the sounds of the house above me. I learn to recognize Dad's heavy footsteps versus Mom's lighter ones. I figure out when Dad leaves for work around 7 in the morning based on the garage door opening. I track when Mom does her afternoon errands because the house goes completely quiet for about 2 hours every day around 3. The door lock cycle with electronic clicks I'm starting to recognize, a specific pattern of beeps before they engage or release. I note all the patterns like they're a code I might eventually crack, writing them down in one of the blank notebooks with times and descriptions. Knowledge is the only power I have right now. The next morning, I wait until I hear Mom's footsteps outside the door. Then I call out that I'm willing to discuss things rationally if she'll let me shower upstairs. My voice sounds steadier than I feel. There's a long pause before she responds through the door, asking if I'm ready to behave myself and be reasonable. I promise I will, even though the words taste like poison in my mouth. She makes me repeat the promise 3 times before I hear the locks clicking open. The small negotiation win feels huge even though I hate myself for playing along, for giving them what they want, for pretending to consider their sick plan. But this is survival, and I'll do whatever it takes. During the supervised bathroom break, Mom stands right outside the open door watching me the entire time I shower. I keep my eyes down and move slowly, trying to look defeated and compliant. While I'm brushing my teeth at the sink, I manage to work a bobby pin loose from my hair and press it behind the baseboard where the sink meets the wall. My fingers shake, but I get it wedged in tight where no one would see it unless they were looking. I use the time to memorize the layout of exits and windows, counting steps from the bathroom to the front door, noting which windows have locks and which might open. Mom watches me like a hawk the whole time, but I keep my face neutral and compliant, just a daughter who's starting to see reason. When we go back downstairs and I hear those locks engage again, I touch the empty spot in my hair where the bobby pin used to be and feel like I won something small but real. That afternoon, Mom unlocks the door and tells me Ethan is here for what she calls a getting to know you session. I climb the stairs behind her with my heart pounding, because this might be my only chance to communicate with him somehow. When we reach the living room, Ethan sits on the couch looking pale and miserable. Mom settles into the armchair directly between us with her phone in her lap, watching us both like a prison guard. Ethan tries to smile at me, but it doesn't reach his eyes. We make awkward small talk about the weather and the wedding plans while Mom nods along, clearly pleased with how cooperative I'm being. He mentions his family and stumbles over the words when he says his sister would have loved to be here. The past tense hits me hard, and I understand immediately what he's not saying. His sister didn't just escape this system. She didn't survive it. Mom doesn't seem to notice the weight behind his words, just keeps scrolling through wedding venue photos on her phone. Ethan's hands shake slightly when he reaches for his water glass, and I see the same trapped look in his eyes that I feel in my chest. After 30 minutes of supervised conversation where we can't say anything real, Mom walks him to the door and I go back downstairs to my cell. That night, I lie awake listening to the sounds of the house settling. Around midnight, I hear it again through the wall. Ashley's voice singing that same lullaby, the melody drifting through the heating vent between our rooms. The repetition sounds mechanical now, like her brain is stuck on a loop and can't move forward to the next thought. I press my palm flat against the cold plaster and whisper as loud as I dare that I'm going to get us both out of here. I don't know how yet, but I promise her I won't leave her behind. The singing stops for just a second, and I think maybe she heard me, but then it starts again exactly where it left off. The next morning, Mom brings breakfast on a tray with a small white pill bottle. She sets it down on the medical bed and opens the bottle to shake out 2 large prenatal vitamins. She hands them to me with a glass of water and stands there with her arms crossed, clearly planning to watch me swallow. I put both pills in my mouth and take a big drink of water, tilting my head back like I'm swallowing. The vitamins are huge and taste bitter against my tongue. I keep them tucked under my tongue against my back teeth and swallow just the water, then open my mouth slightly to show it's empty. Mom nods with satisfaction and picks up the tray. The second she locks the door behind her, I spit both pills into my hand and flush them down the toilet. It's a small act of resistance, but it feels huge. I refuse to participate in their breeding preparation even in tiny ways like this. Later that afternoon, Dad comes down with a leather folder tucked under his arm. He sits on the edge of the medical bed and opens it to show me page after page of legal documents. The contracts his lawyer prepared spell everything out in cold legal language. The genetic dowry terms list the $50,000 his family paid mine like I'm livestock being sold. The breeding requirements specify 5 children minimum with financial penalties if I fail to deliver within the 10-year timeline. There are clauses about custody arrangements and genetic testing requirements for each baby. Medical care restrictions that keep me away from hospitals where I might tell someone what's happening. The legal cage they've built is as solid as the physical one with locks and cameras. Seeing it all written out in official language with signatures and notary stamps makes something shift in my chest. My fear turns colder and more focused. I study each page carefully, memorizing the terms and looking for any weakness I can exploit later. Dad mistakes my attention for acceptance and pats my knee before he leaves. After he locks me in again, I pace the small room and notice things I missed before. The HVAC vent near the ceiling is larger than standard size, maybe big enough that I could fit through if I could remove the screws holding the grate. I stare up at it and trace the ductwork path in my mind, trying to figure out where it leads. But the camera mounted in the corner has a clear view of that wall and would catch me immediately if I tried anything. Still, I file the information away as a possible last resort if everything else fails. I spend the rest of the day thinking through my options and decide my best strategy is to use their wedding timeline against them. They need me cooperative and presentable for their public ceremony with all the approved bloodline families watching. That gives me a few weeks of leverage where they can't just lock me down here forever. If I pretend to slowly come around and accept their plan, they'll give me more freedom upstairs. More freedom means more opportunities to find a way out. The next morning when Mom brings breakfast, I tell her I've been thinking about what she said. I ask if she could help me understand the family legacy better, because I want to know what makes our bloodline so important. Her whole face lights up with this pleased smile that makes my stomach turn. She actually hugs me tight and says she knew I'd eventually see reason. She promises to bring down the ancestry charts and explain everything properly. I have to hide my disgust and keep my face neutral while she practically skips back upstairs to get the materials. When she returns with armfuls of binders and rolled up charts, she unlocks the door and tells me I can come upstairs for this conversation since I'm being so mature. I follow her up to the dining room where she spreads everything across the table. While she's busy organizing the documents by century, I use the opportunity to study the front door area. The smart lock control panel is mounted on the wall next to the door frame with a small screen showing battery status and connection indicators. I can see it's connected wirelessly to their phones for remote control. The system looks sophisticated but not impossible to bypass. I start thinking about power outages and whether the locks have manual overrides for emergencies. Mom catches me looking, and I quickly turn my attention back to the ancestry charts she's explaining. She traces our family line back through centuries, pointing out the facial measurements and genetic markers they've tracked. I nod and ask questions that make me sound engaged while my brain works on escape plans. When she finally takes a break, I ask if I can use the approved phone to call the fertility clinic with some questions. Mom is absolutely thrilled by my apparent engagement with the breeding program. She hands me the phone and hovers nearby while I scroll through the contacts looking for the clinic number. That's when I notice a number labeled medical emergency that looks different from the others. It doesn't have the same monitoring icon next to it that all the other approved numbers show. I file that information away and make the fake call to the clinic, asking basic questions about prenatal care while Mom beams with pride. That night, back in the basement, I start planning how to fake a medical crisis, serious enough to get me to an emergency room, but controllable enough that I won't actually hurt myself. An allergic reaction might work if I can figure out what to use as a trigger. Or maybe a blood sugar crash if I can time it right by manipulating my food intake. I need something that looks scary enough that they'll panic and take me to professionals, but not something that will actually damage my body or the baby they're so obsessed with me having. I spend hours thinking through the options and timing, knowing I only get one shot at this before they figure out what I'm doing. The next evening, I pocket 3 sugar packets from breakfast and eat them all at once when Mom brings lunch, feeling the sweetness coat my tongue. My body buzzes with the sudden spike, and I force myself to stay calm while the sugar hits my system. When dinner comes, I refuse to eat anything, claiming my stomach hurts, and Mom just shrugs and takes the tray away. 2 hours later, the shaking starts in my hands and spreads through my whole body. Sweat soaks through my shirt and the room spins when I try to stand. I make it to the bathroom before my legs give out and I collapse on the tile floor, my vision going dark around the edges. Mom's footsteps pound down the stairs and she's screaming for Dad before I even hear the door unlock. Dad scoops me up and carries me to the car while Mom grabs her purse, both of them talking over each other about blood sugar and dehydration. The urgent care clinic is 15 minutes away, and I stay limp in the back seat, letting my head loll while they argue about whether this will delay the wedding timeline. At intake, a nurse named Trish Campbell takes my vitals and asks what happened. Mom jumps in with her story about me being stressed and not eating properly, but Trish keeps her eyes on me while checking my blood pressure. When Mom turns to fill out paperwork, I fold the note I'd written earlier and press it into Trish's hand during the pulse check. She doesn't react at all, just squeezes my fingers once and slides the paper into her scrub pocket. I see her make some kind of mark on her computer screen before calling us back to an exam room. The doctor comes in and Trish stays, positioning herself between me and my parents while they examine me. She asks me direct questions about eating and stress that my parents try to answer for me, but she keeps redirecting back to me. I can see Mom getting annoyed, but she can't make a scene in front of medical staff. Trish documents everything the doctor says and takes photos of the bruises on my arms from when Dad dragged me back inside after my last escape attempt. My parents hover and try to control the conversation, explaining away every mark and symptom with reasonable-sounding excuses. The doctor orders an IV for dehydration and some blood tests, and Trish administers everything while my parents sit in chairs against the wall watching. She manages to slip a small card into the medication instruction sheet when she hands me the discharge papers, and I palm it smoothly before Dad can see. He searches my pockets in the car anyway, patting me down like I'm a criminal, but the card is already tucked into my underwear where he won't check in public. Back home, Dad announces he's installing cameras in the bathroom starting tomorrow, and I'll only get supervised shower time from now on. Mom nods along like this is perfectly normal parenting and not complete invasion of my privacy. The humiliation sits in my throat like a rock, but I swallow it down and focus on the card hidden against my skin. My next supervised shower happens the following morning with Mom sitting on the closed toilet lid scrolling her phone. I work fast while the water runs, finding a loose panel under the sink and wedging the hotline card behind it. The panel clicks back into place just as Mom looks up and I finish washing like nothing happened. That afternoon, the approved phone buzzes with a text from Ethan saying he's looking forward to building our family and can't wait for the wedding. The phrasing is stiff and weird, nothing like how he talked during our supervised visits, and I understand his parents are reading everything he sends. I respond with equally careful language about being excited for our future together, trying to signal that I know we're both being watched. Mom appears in my doorway that evening with her planning binder and announces the fertility specialist can see us next week. She's moving the wedding up by 2 weeks to make sure we stay on the original pregnancy timeline, and my chest gets tight with panic. I force myself to nod and ask questions about the dress fitting, playing the cooperative daughter while my brain races through escape options. The fertility consult happens 3 days later in a sterile office that smells like cleaning products. The doctor explains ovulation tracking and optimal conception windows, while my parents take notes like students in class. When the doctor steps out to get some paperwork, I let myself sway in the chair and then pitch forward onto the floor, making sure to fall hard enough that it looks serious. Mom shouts for the doctor and they have to reschedule everything while they check me over again, and I can see the frustration in Mom's face even though she has to act concerned in front of the medical staff. 2 days after that, someone knocks on our front door in the middle of the afternoon. Dad answers it and I hear a man's voice asking to speak with me, identifying himself as Officer Evan Dean doing a welfare check. My parents exchange a quick look before Dad invites him in with exaggerated politeness. Mom positions me on the couch and sits next to me with her arm around my shoulders, playing the loving mother while Dad offers the officer coffee. Evan asks me how I'm doing and if everything is okay at home, his eyes scanning the room and landing on me with an expression I can't quite read. I stand there in the living room with my parents flanking me like guards and say, "I'm fine. Everything is great. I just want to make my parents happy. I repeat that phrase 3 times in slightly different ways, remembering something from a TV show about domestic violence signals, and I see Evan's expression shift slightly. He asks a few more questions that my parents intercept with their rehearsed answers about wedding stress and teenage emotions. Before he leaves, he puts his card on the coffee table and Dad picks it up immediately after the door closes but doesn't throw it away. That night back in the basement, I trace the ceiling cracks with my eyes and think about Trish flagging something in her system and Evan showing up asking questions. The walls are closing in with the moved up timeline, but tiny cracks are forming in my parents' control, and I just need to find the right pressure point to make everything split open. Dad adjusts his position on the couch arm and asks Evan if there's anything else he needs, his voice carrying that edge of forced patience that means he wants this over. Evan looks at me again and asks if I'm excited about the wedding, and I open my mouth to give the rehearsed answer, but something snaps inside. I hear myself say, I just want to make my parents happy, and Mom's arm tightens around my shoulders in what looks like affection, but feels like a warning. Evan nods slowly and asks what I'm looking forward to most about married life, and I repeat it again. I just want to make my parents happy, the words coming out flat and robotic. Dad shifts his weight and starts to stand, clearly ready to show Evan out, but Evan keeps his eyes on me and asks one more question about my plans for the future. I just want to make my parents happy, I say for the 3rd time, and I watch something change in Evan's face, a recognition that makes my chest tight with desperate hope. He reaches into his jacket and pulls out a business card, setting it on the coffee table between us before Dad can intercept. Mom's fingers dig into my shoulder hard enough to bruise while Dad scoops up the card immediately, but Evan has already turned toward the door. Dad walks him out with tense politeness and I hear their voices at the front entrance. Then the door closes and Dad comes back holding the card like it might explode. He tears it into tiny pieces over the trash can, while Mom drags me toward the basement door by my upper arm, her nails cutting into my skin. The basement stairs feel longer than usual with Mom shoving me down each step. Dad follows behind us and unlocks the suite door and they both stand there while I walk inside. Dad goes straight to the small bookshelf in the corner and starts pulling down the 3 paperbacks I'd been allowed to keep, the only entertainment I had besides staring at walls. Mom watches him stack them by the door, and then she walks through the room collecting anything that isn't medical equipment or basic furniture. The notebook and pen I'd hidden under the mattress, the magazine I'd found in the bathroom cabinet, even the extra blanket that made the thin mattress slightly more comfortable. She takes it all while explaining that I clearly need time without distractions to think about my purpose and my responsibilities to our family. Dad unplugs the small lamp on the bedside table and carries it out, leaving just the harsh overhead fluorescent that makes everything look sterile and cold. They stand in the doorway for a moment looking at me in the empty room, and Mom says Ashley lasted 2 weeks before she understood what really mattered. The lock clicks behind them, and I'm alone with nothing but white walls and medical supplies and the sound of my own breathing. I sit on the bare mattress and force myself not to cry because that's what they want, to break me down until I'm as hollow as Ashley. Instead, I start counting the ceiling tiles and planning, using the silence to map out every detail of the house above me, every pattern in their daily routine, every possible weak point in their control. Morning comes with Mom unlocking the door to bring breakfast on a tray. She sets it on the floor without speaking and leaves again, and I eat the cold oatmeal while listening to footsteps overhead. I hear Ashley's voice singing to her babies, that same lullaby that never seems to end, and I press my ear against the wall trying to catch any other sounds. An hour later, the lock clicks again and Mom calls me upstairs for a supervised bathroom break. I follow her up the stairs and into the hallway, my legs stiff from sitting all night. Ashley appears at the top of the stairs with a laundry basket balanced on her hip, her face blank and exhausted like always. Mom turns away to check her phone, distracted by a text message, and Ashley moves past me toward the basement stairs. Her hand brushes mine for just a second, and I feel something small and metal press into my palm. Her fingers squeeze mine hard enough to hurt, and when I look at her face, her eyes are still empty, but there's something fierce in that grip. She moves past without a word, and I close my fist around whatever she gave me, keeping my hand at my side while Mom finishes her text. In the bathroom, I open my hand and find 2 bobby pins, bent slightly at the ends like someone has used them before. I hide them in my sock before Mom knocks on the door asking if I'm done, and I flush the toilet and wash my hands while my heart races with the first real hope I've felt in days. Back in the basement suite, I wait until the house goes quiet for the night, before I pull out the bobby pins and the small pen light I'd taken from the medical kit weeks ago. The bathroom door locks from the inside with a simple mechanism I can see through the crack when I angle the light right. I bend one bobby pin straighter and insert it into the keyhole, feeling for the pins inside while using the second pin to apply tension. My hands shake and cramp after 20 minutes of trying, and I have to stop to flex my fingers and wipe the sweat off my palms. I try again, adjusting the angle and the pressure, remembering videos I'd seen online back when I had internet access. The pins inside the lock shift and catch, and I lose them and have to start over. Hours pass with nothing but tiny metallic sounds and my own frustrated breathing. My fingers ache and the pen light battery starts to dim, but I keep trying because this is the only real tool Ashley could give me. Finally, just when I'm ready to give up for the night, something inside the lock shifts differently, and I hear a soft click. The mechanism gives way and the bathroom door swings open an inch, unlocked by my own hands. I sit there on the floor staring at that open door and feeling like I've won something huge, even though I'm still trapped in a locked basement suite. 3 days later, my parents announce we're having dinner guests, and I need to look presentable. Mom brings me upstairs and makes me shower while she stands outside the bathroom door. Then she puts me in a blue dress that makes me look younger and more innocent than I feel. The neighbor couple arrives at 6. A middle-aged pair named something I don't catch because I'm too busy trying to look normal. Next, we sit in the dining room and Mom serves roast chicken while Dad talks about the wedding plans with pride in his voice. The neighbors congratulate me and ask questions about my dress and the ceremony, and I smile and nod and play the excited bride like I've been trained to do. Inside, I'm screaming at them to notice something wrong, to see past the performance, but they just keep smiling and talking about how lovely it all sounds. The wife asks if Ethan and I are planning to start a family right away, and Mom jumps in to explain our hopes for children while I sit there feeling sick. Dad mentions my good grades and my genetic advantages like I'm a prize cow, and the neighbors laugh and say we'll have beautiful babies. I watch them believe every word, watch them see exactly what my parents want them to see, and I understand that no one is going to save me just because they happen to witness my performance. After they leave, Mom sends me back to the basement with a warning that more people will be watching as the wedding gets closer, so I better keep acting appropriately. The next afternoon, Mom brings me upstairs for a supervised shower, standing outside the bathroom door like always while I wash quickly in lukewarm water. I notice the basement laundry area through the open door across from the bathroom, and I can see a gray metal box mounted on the wall with the door hanging slightly open. I angle myself to get a better look while pretending to focus on washing my hair, and I can see labels inside the box marking different circuits. Kitchen, living room, master bedroom, basement suite. The breaker box controls all the power in the house, including whatever system runs those electronic locks on all the doors. Smart locks need power to function, which means a power outage might make them default to manual mode instead of staying locked. I file this information away while rinsing soap from my hair, and when Mom knocks to tell me to hurry up, I'm already planning how to test this theory. If I can trip the right breaker for just a few seconds, I might be able to find out if those locks release or if they fail secure. The difference could mean everything. I wait until the middle of the night when the house goes completely silent above me. The metal bed frame conducts electricity, and if I can create a short circuit between the frame and the outlet near the headboard, it might trip the breaker for the basement circuit. I use the bent end of one bobby pin to bridge the connection, holding my breath and turning my face away in case it sparks. The lights go out instantly, and I hear a loud click from the door mechanism, then another click from somewhere else in the basement. I count in my head, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then the lights flicker back on with Dad's footsteps pounding overhead. The door lock clicks again, this time sealing shut, but for those 8 seconds it had definitely switched to manual mode. I hear Dad coming down the stairs and I'm already back in bed pretending to sleep, the bobby pin hidden under my pillow. He opens the door and checks the room with a flashlight, looking for any sign of what caused the electrical problem. I keep my breathing slow, and even while he examines the outlets and the medical equipment, and finally he leaves and locks the door again. But now I know something crucial. 8 seconds of darkness equals 8 seconds when the locks release to manual, and 8 seconds might be just enough time to reach the bathroom and make a phone call if I can time everything perfectly. The next attempt comes 2 nights later when I've memorized exactly how many steps it takes to reach the bathroom from my bed. I create another short circuit with the bobby pin and the lights die, that same loud click echoing from the door. I sprint across the dark room, my hands outstretched to feel for the bathroom door frame, and I'm inside in 4 seconds. The hotline card is still hidden behind the sink baseboard where I'd left it, and I grab the approved phone from my pocket where I'd hidden it during my last supervised bathroom break. My fingers shake while I dial the number in the dark, and a woman's voice answers just as the lights flicker back on. I whisper as fast as I can that I'm trapped in a basement and being forced into marriage and pregnancy, my words tumbling over each other. The woman, Rafaela Crawford according to what she tells me, stays completely calm and asks me to breathe. She asks if I'm in immediate danger and I say yes, and she tells me to call back when I can talk longer. She gives me a code word to use if I need emergency extraction, something simple like red cardinal, that wouldn't sound suspicious in regular conversation. I hear Dad's footsteps on the stairs and I end the call, shoving the phone back in my pocket and the card behind the baseboard. I'm sitting on the bathroom floor when he opens the door and I tell him I was using the toilet when the power went out. He doesn't believe me. I can see it in his eyes, but he can't prove anything. The next morning, my parents search my room while I sit on the bed watching. Mom goes through the medical supplies piece by piece while Dad checks every corner and crevice, looking for whatever caused the power incidents or any contraband I might have hidden. I'd shoved the hotline card down the sink drain the second I heard them coming, destroying my only physical connection to help, but the phone number is burned into my memory now. They don't find the bobby pins because I'd hidden them inside the hollow bed frame leg, and they don't find the approved phone because it's in my underwear where Dad won't search. Mom tears the thin mattress off the bed frame and checks the springs. Then she empties the first aid kit and examines each item. Dad unscrews the vent cover and shines a flashlight inside, and I hold my breath thinking about all the times I'd whispered to Ashley through those vents. Finally, they give up and leave, but Dad stops at the door and looks at me with suspicion carved into every line of his face. He tells me he knows I'm planning something and he's watching everything I do, and the wedding is in 5 days whether I cooperate or not. After he locks the door, I sit in the searched and stripped room and I realize I'm running out of time to make this work. But Rafaela knows about me now. And somewhere out there, people are working on a plan. And I just need to survive long enough for that plan to reach me. The approved phone rings the next afternoon, and I answer it with my parents standing right there listening. A woman's voice asks for me by name and identifies herself as calling from the fertility clinic to confirm my appointment. I recognize Rafaela's voice immediately, even though she's using a professional tone that sounds nothing like our whispered conversation. She asks if I'm still experiencing the symptoms we discussed, and I say yes while Mom leans closer to hear. Rafaela asks careful questions about my cycle and my health, but the real message is buried in the medical terminology. She asks if I'm having any bleeding or cramping in my lower right quadrant, and I understand she's asking about my location in the house. I tell her no bleeding but some cramping, which means I'm okay but trapped. She asks if I have any family history of complications, and I mention my sister's difficult deliveries, giving her information about Ashley. Mom interrupts to ask about the appointment time, and Rafaela smoothly confirms it's scheduled for next week, which I understand means she needs more time to arrange help. She ends the call by saying someone will contact me soon to confirm details, and I hang up knowing that the plan is moving forward even if I can't see all the pieces yet. Mom seems satisfied that it was just a routine medical call, but I catch Dad watching me with that same suspicious look. The walls are closing in with the wedding only days away, but tiny cracks keep forming in my parents' control, and somewhere out there Rafaela is working to turn those cracks into an opening wide enough for me to escape through. Mom unlocks the door the next morning and her smile is fake and bright like she's trying to sell me something. She announces the wedding is happening in 1 week instead of 3, because the fertility specialist had a cancellation, and we need to take advantage of the timing. Her voice is cheerful, but I can see the calculation behind her eyes, and the way Dad hovers in the doorway watching my reaction. They're speeding everything up because they know I'm planning something even if they can't prove it yet. My chest gets tight and my breathing goes shallow, but I force myself to nod and act like I'm accepting this new timeline. Mom explains the dress fitter is coming to the house this afternoon since I haven't earned the privilege of going to a real bridal shop. The word privilege makes my jaw clench, but I keep my face neutral and cooperative. The fitter arrives with garment bags and a tackle box full of supplies, setting up in the living room while Mom supervises every measurement and pin. I stand on a stool in my underwear while this stranger circles me with chalk and a measuring tape, marking fabric and making notes. Mom keeps saying things about how I'll be such a beautiful bride, and how Ethan's family will be so pleased with my appearance. The fitter opens her tackle box to grab more pins, and I see the seam ripper sitting right there in the top tray. My heart starts pounding, but I keep my face blank and bored like I'm not paying attention. When the fitter turns to adjust the hem and Mom steps into the kitchen to answer her phone, I palm the seam ripper in one quick motion and slide it into my sock. The metal is cold against my ankle, and I'm terrified someone saw but nobody reacts. After the fitting, I get sent back downstairs and I use the seam ripper to make tiny scratches on the window frame, testing which side of the glass might break easier if I need to smash my way out. The scratches are barely visible, but they tell me the left side has a weak spot where the frame is separating from the wall. Every small piece of information feels like building blocks toward something, even though I still don't have a complete escape plan. Dad comes down that evening with some kind of handheld device that looks like a grocery store scanner. He makes a big show of waving it near my stomach and telling me the tracking chip is active and monitoring my location at all times. His voice is serious and threatening, and for a second I'm genuinely scared that they really did implant something during my appendix surgery. But then I remember what Ethan said about his sister and the network of people trapped in breeding programs, and I realize this is probably just psychological warfare. They want me to believe I'm chipped so I won't even try to run. The scanner beeps and Dad nods like it confirmed something, but the beep sounded fake and theatrical. I file this information away and decide to test their surveillance claims. The next day, I'm putting on my shoes for a supervised trip upstairs when I feel something hard in the toe of my sneaker. I pull out a tiny AirTag that must have been hidden there for weeks. My parents have been tracking my location with basic technology this whole time and trying to make me think it was some advanced medical implant. I wait until my bathroom break and flush the AirTag down the toilet, watching it disappear with a surge of satisfaction. Their surveillance isn't as good as they pretended, and the chip story was just another control tactic to keep me scared and compliant. The approved phone buzzes with a text from Ethan that afternoon. The message says his family is watching everything he does, and he can't help openly, and there's a photo attached that shows his bedroom door with a padlock on the outside. We're both prisoners in different ways, and I realize I can't count on him for any kind of rescue. He's as trapped as I am and probably facing the same threats and psychological games. I text back something neutral about looking forward to our future together, knowing his parents are reading every word. That night at dinner, I hold the approved phone under the table and start the voice recorder app. My parents are discussing their breeding program goals and using words like genetic superiority and bloodline preservation and optimal offspring. Mom talks about how they need to accelerate my pregnancy timeline because other families in their network are producing children faster. Dad mentions the $50,000 dowry and how it's an investment in securing the best genetic material for our family line. The audio is clear and damning, and I managed to email it to myself using a fake appointment confirmation that looks like it came from the fertility clinic. If I ever get out of here, this recording could be evidence of what they're really doing. Ashley catches me alone in the upstairs hallway the next morning while Mom is in the shower. She presses something metal into my hand and whispers to please live for both of us. Her eyes are empty, but her fingers squeeze mine hard and desperate. I look down and see it's an old copied key that looks like it might fit the basement exterior door. Ashley explains in a rushed whisper that Dad changed the locks months ago, but she kept this copy from before. It's the most direct help anyone has given me, and I hide it in my bra before Mom comes back. The approved phone buzzes again, and it's Rafaela using her fake fertility clinic voice. She's confirming my appointment with coded language that tells me she's secured a shelter bed and will have someone nearby on my wedding day. The plan is actually forming into something real and concrete. I just need to survive the next 6 days until I can use Ashley's key and meet whoever Rafaela is sending. Mom performs what she calls a purity verification the next morning, and it's one of the most humiliating things she's ever done to me. She makes me lie on the medical bed while she checks to make sure I haven't somehow gotten pregnant by anyone else. I dissociate through it by counting ceiling tiles and breathing in patterns, but I bank the rage deep in my chest for when I can actually use it. This violation is just more proof that I'm not a person to them, just a breeding vessel they need to control and monitor. After she finally leaves, I let myself cry for exactly 5 minutes. Then I wash my face and start planning again. I write a goodbye note to Ashley on a piece of paper torn from one of my old notebooks. I tell her that I love her and I'm going to come back for her once I'm safe. I tell her to hold on and keep singing to her babies and remember that she used to dream about being a doctor. I fold the note tiny and small and wait for my next supervised trip upstairs. When Mom takes me to brush my teeth, I slip into Ashley's room for just 30 seconds and hide the note inside a children's book on her shelf. Leaving her behind feels like the worst kind of betrayal, but I can't save us both at once. I need to get out first and then figure out how to come back for my sister and her babies. The wedding is in 5 days, and I have a key and a plan, and people on the outside who know what's happening. I just need to survive long enough to use them. At 4 a.m. on my wedding day, I slip out of the basement bed and press Ashley's copied key into the exterior door lock with shaking hands. The metal turns and I actually feel the lock give before Dad's hand clamps down on my shoulder from behind, like he'd been waiting in the dark. I scream and twist away, the key falling from my fingers as I run anyway because this is my only chance. My bare feet slap against the basement floor while Dad shouts for Mom and I sprint through the house in my pajamas, crashing into furniture in the pre-dawn darkness. I make it to the front door and yank it open, bursting onto the street before the sun is fully up while my lungs burn and my legs pump harder than they ever have. I'm screaming for help at the top of my voice, waving my arms at the empty street while my parents chase me in their bathrobes looking like normal concerned parents instead of the monsters they are. A neighbor pauses in his driveway getting his newspaper, clearly uncomfortable as he watches me in pajamas screaming about being held prisoner. He looks between me and my parents and I can see him deciding this is a family dispute he doesn't want to get involved in, and my heart sinks as he turns away. Mom is gaining on me and I hear her calling my name in that fake sweet voice she uses in public, telling the neighbor I'm having an episode and forgot my medication. A car turns onto our street and I recognize the driver from the photo Rafaela had sent to the approved phone, a woman with short dark hair in a gray sedan. I throw myself toward the vehicle while my parents grab at my clothes and Mom's nails scratch my arm drawing blood. The driver accelerates and I manage to get the door open, tumbling inside while Dad pounds on the window hard enough that I think the glass might break. We peel away from the curb and I look back to see my parents standing in the street in their bathrobes, and Mom's face is twisted with rage that she can't hide anymore. We drive straight to the hospital where Trish Campbell is waiting at the emergency entrance like Rafaela had arranged. Trish takes me to a private exam room and documents every bruise on my body with photos and careful notes, asking questions in a calm voice about the basement suite conditions and my parents' forced breeding program. I tell her everything while she writes it down in official medical language that makes it feel real and horrible and validating all at once. She examines the scratches on my arm where Mom grabbed me and the bruises on my shoulder where Dad caught me, taking more photos and labeling everything with timestamps. The hospital staff finds an AirTag I'd missed sewn into the lining of my jacket and removes it, placing it in a plastic bag for evidence. They do imaging to confirm there's no tracking chip implanted anywhere in my body like my parents had claimed, and the relief that they were lying about that almost makes me cry right there on the exam table. Trish squeezes my hand and tells me I'm safe now, that they have protocols for situations like mine and I want to believe her, but I'm still shaking. Officer Evan Dean arrives to take my statement and he reviews the audio recording I'd made of my parents discussing their breeding program goals, listening with a serious expression that never changes. He looks through Trish's medical documentation and the photos of my injuries, then explains, "This is enough for a protective order, but criminal charges will take more investigation and evidence." I feel my hope deflate a little because I want them arrested right now, want them locked up so they can't hurt Ashley anymore. But Evan says the system doesn't work that fast. My parents file a missing person report claiming I was kidnapped, and by afternoon they're calling Evan's department insisting I'm mentally unstable and was taken by a cult. The gaslighting continues even when I'm not there to hear it, and Evan shows me the report they filed describing me as delusional and saying I've been brainwashed by anti-family extremists. It makes me so angry I can barely see straight because they're trying to twist everything, trying to make themselves look like victims when they're the ones who built a breeding suite in their basement. Rafaela takes me to the domestic violence shelter where I have to follow strict security protocols and can't tell anyone my location, not even through the phone they give me. I feel guilty relief at being safe while Ashley is still trapped with her 2 babies, and the guilt sits heavy in my chest like a stone I can't swallow. The shelter is clean and quiet with locked doors and cameras, and my room has a bed and a dresser and a window with bars that are meant to keep danger out instead of keeping me in. I lie on the bed and stare at the ceiling and think about Ashley singing her lullaby through the wall, and I promise myself I'll come back for her once I figure out how. Evan attempts a welfare check on Ashley the next day, but my parents refuse to let him see her without a warrant, and their lawyer shows up within an hour. The system moves slowly like molasses, and I'm scared of what they might do to her now that I've escaped and exposed their program. Evan calls to tell me he's working on getting a warrant, but it takes time to convince a judge, and I want to scream that Ashley doesn't have time. I meet with Antonia Bruno from Legal Aid, who explains my options are complicated because I'm 18, and technically left voluntarily, which means it's harder to prove I was held against my will. She can help me get a protective order, but stopping them from continuing the breeding program with Ashley requires Child Protective Services involvement, and that's a whole different system with different rules. Antonia is kind but realistic, telling me these cases take weeks or months to resolve, and I feel like I'm drowning in bureaucracy while my sister suffers. The court hearing happens 3 days later in a small windowless room that smells like old carpet and stress. The judge is a tired-looking woman who flips through Antonia's paperwork, while my parents sit across the aisle with their lawyer, a man in an expensive suit who keeps writing notes on a yellow pad. Antonia presents Trisha's medical records and the audio recording I made, plus Evan's report about the basement suite and the breeding program contracts. The judge reads everything slowly, her face staying blank the whole time, and I sit there trying not to throw up from nerves. She grants a temporary protective order that keeps my parents from contacting me or coming within 500 feet of the shelter. But then she looks at me over her glasses and says it's only good for 2 weeks unless we can prove ongoing threat at the next hearing. Antonia squeezes my hand under the table, but I can tell from her face this isn't the win we wanted. My parents have to leave the courtroom first, and Dad stares at me the whole way out, his expression promising this isn't over. It's something, but it doesn't feel like enough. Not when Ashley is still trapped in that house with her babies. That same week, Evan calls to tell me my parents somehow found out which police station he works at, and they've been showing up there every day demanding to know where I am. They stand in the lobby making threats about lawsuits for parental interference and kidnapping charges, claiming I'm mentally unstable and the police are helping criminals hold me hostage. Evan sounds tired when he explains this, like dealing with my parents is wearing him down even though he's trained for difficult people. His supervisor finally has to get involved and ban them from the building after Dad starts following officers to their cars in the parking lot. The ban is official with paperwork and everything, but Evan warns me it just means they'll find other ways to cause problems. I feel guilty that my escape is making his job harder, but he tells me firmly that this is exactly what these cases look like, and I shouldn't apologize for getting help. 2 days after that, I get a message through the DV hotline from someone who identifies themselves as a friend of mine, using the code phrase Rafaela set up. It's from Ethan, and the message is short and careful, probably because his family monitors everything. He says his parents are doubling down on their breeding program goals, and they're already looking at profiles for a new match for him, some girl from a family 3 states away who they've been in contact with for years. Reading it makes me feel sick to my stomach because I know there are others trapped in this same system, probably dozens or hundreds of people in these weird eugenics families, and my escape might have just moved their focus to someone else. Ethan ends the message by saying he's trying to document everything like I did, building a case, but it's hard when they watch him constantly. I write back through the hotline telling him to be safe and that the network is real, but the words feel empty when I'm free and he's still trapped. The protective order hearing 2 weeks later is worse than the first one. My parents bring a different lawyer this time, a woman who smiles at the judge like they're old friends, and then spends 30 minutes painting me as a rebellious teenager who's been influenced by anti-family activists. She shows photos of me at protests in high school, twists my college plans into proof I rejected family values, and claims the breeding program is just my parents' religious beliefs about traditional marriage that I'm misrepresenting. She makes Ashley's pregnancy sound like normal family planning, and calls the basement suite a mother-in-law apartment they were renovating. The judge looks skeptical but also uncertain, glancing between the lawyers while my parents sit there looking like hurt victims instead of the people who locked me in a basement. Antonia fights back hard with the medical evidence and recordings, but I can tell we're losing ground. The judge extends the protective order for 6 months instead of dismissing it, which Antonia says is good, but she also says there isn't enough evidence yet for criminal charges, and CPS needs more time to investigate. I leave the courthouse feeling like I only half won, like the system is protecting me but not enough to actually stop my parents. After the hearing, I start seeing a therapist at the shelter twice a week, a quiet woman who doesn't push me to talk about things before I'm ready. The sessions are hard because talking about the breeding program and the basement makes it real all over again, but she teaches me breathing exercises for when I panic and helps me understand that what happened wasn't normal family conflict. I also take a part-time job in the shelter's office doing filing and data entry, organizing intake forms and resource lists for $8 an hour. The work is boring, but I like having somewhere to be every day, a routine that makes me feel less like a victim waiting for rescue and more like someone who's surviving one day at a time. I eat meals in the shelter cafeteria and attend the support groups they offer, and slowly start believing I might actually build a life outside my parents' control. A month after my escape, I'm sorting files in the office when one of the staff brings me a message that came through the shelter's coded system. It's from Ashley, and my hands shake so hard I almost drop the paper. The message is short and careful, just asking if what I did is possible for her too, if there's really a way out, or if I just got lucky. My heart breaks and soars at the exact same time because she's still in that house with 2 babies and our parents watching her constantly, but she's also still fighting instead of giving up completely. I write back immediately using the shelter's secure system, telling her yes, it's possible and I'm working on a plan, that I haven't forgotten her and I'm coming back. Rafaela helps me send it through channels my parents can't trace, and then I spend the rest of the day crying in the bathroom because my sister is still alive in there somewhere under all that brokenness. 3 days later, Evan calls with news that makes me dizzy with hope. He tells me he's opened a formal investigation into human trafficking and coercive control, not just for my case, but for the whole network of breeding program families that Ethan told me about. He's working with federal agents now because this crosses state lines, and CPS is finally involved in Ashley's case after his supervisor pushed them. He warns me the wheels turn slowly, and investigations like this take months or even years, but they're turning and that's what matters. I ask about Ashley specifically, and he says CPS did a home visit, but my parents wouldn't let them see her alone, claimed she was sleeping and the babies were fussy. It's not enough yet, but it's a start, and Evan promises he's not giving up. I let myself feel cautious hope for the first time since I escaped, like maybe the system can actually help even if it takes forever. 6 weeks after arriving at the shelter, I move into transitional housing, a small studio apartment on the 3rd floor of a building that houses other people rebuilding their lives. The apartment has a bed and a dresser and a tiny kitchen with a hot plate, plus a bathroom that's mine alone, and a window with bars that are there to keep danger out instead of keeping me in. I can lock my own door from the inside and no one monitors my movements or checks my phone. The first night I lie on the bed and cry because I have my own space, my own key, my own life starting. I keep a go bag packed in the closet for Ashley with clothes in her size, toiletries, cash I've been saving from my shelter job, and a burner phone. It sits there ready for whenever she can run, because I know she will, and I'm going to be ready to help her find the same freedom I fought for. 2 weeks into my new apartment, I enroll in a GED preparation class at the community center 3 blocks away. The classes are free and meet 4 nights a week, helping people like me who never got to finish high school get their diplomas. I'm nervous the first night, but the teacher is patient and the other students don't ask questions about why we're all there instead of regular school. I'm working on math problems at home when my phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number, just one word that makes my heart stop. The text says tomorrow and nothing else. I call Rafaela right away and she confirms through her contacts that the number belongs to a burner phone registered to Ashley. Tomorrow means she's ready to run, that whatever plan she's been building is happening in less than 24 hours. I spend the whole night awake and alert with my phone in my hand and the go bag by the door, drinking coffee, and pacing my tiny apartment while I wait to help my sister find her way out of that house and into the freedom I've been holding space for since the day I escaped. Well, there you have it. I really hope this one made you smile. If you're new here, welcome. Go ahead and subscribe so we can keep doing this together. Sending good vibes your way, and I'll catch you next time.